Deep in a remote forest, we invited 6 professionals from industry and academia to discuss how artificial intelligence is changing our society. These are the insights from their conversation. Welcome to AI Campfire.
AI has been called one of the most transformative technologies that humanity's ever made, transforming healthcare, transforming education, transforming society in all sorts of ways. But I think one of the topics that is foundational to everyone is education and learning. So the question is, when you're using things like generative AI that arguably know everything about everything, what does the future of learning look like in an AI world? So to kick things off, Matthias, I know this is something you have a lot of strong opinions on. So what does the future of AI and learning mean?
We need to rethink the way we assess learning in the age of AI. Much of the debate on AI in education is on using ChatGPT to do your homework or to complete your assignments, but that's clearly missing the point, right? When you have the ability of a large language model at your fingertips, there's no need to do the basis of the learning pyramid, right? To understand, to know, to make connections between basic concepts, and then to critically assess. And the LLM, of course, does all the basis of that learning pyramid just as well. It's almost you leapfrog to the top, and then you can only assess the very top. The great danger is that we're going to teach a lot of people how to use prompts, but that's all they know. They don't understand how it was generated. They don't understand what it means, and they can't judge good from bad. And that's, to me, is the real danger.
If this is all we do with education, then yes, it's going to be very shallow. But let me give you another future. This doesn't fully exist, but one could have another future. So those of us who do technical subjects like engineering, we spend a lot of time experimenting in the lab, experimenting in simulations. We would write down equations and you would have to imagine in your head. But let's say there's a 3D visualization in front of you that shows you, if you did this, this happens. If I poke the fire, that's what will happen. You understand much better without having to do experiments that were previously impossible. One could have that kind of education, and then it would have much more in-depth understanding. It's not just what technology you use, but how do you package it inside the educational experience?
At the moment, our education is all plain vanilla to everyone. But we could also use AI almost like do a psychometric test and assess learning styles and then tailor the learning journey. They could show some students the content in pictures. It could show them in different languages. It could show them in different ways, audio, video, and talking to friends in publishing. The idea of a book is pretty much outdated these days. You would have a global edition and you choose when you buy it which language for your ebook you're going to get, and it's AI translated, including changing the figures and everything. So I think there's certainly a lot more than the current debate on LLMs in education. So I very much agree on that.
We can now match the learning path to the learner. So, we have worked with people like that and people with English as a second language with Brighton Council. And it's really interesting to see what can happen when you tailor it to them. The other thing that we're hearing coming out is that people with ADHD absolutely love it. They can ask the same question 100 different times. It doesn't matter. People with dyslexia, it can adjust the language so that it speaks to them. People with autism or any other kind of anywhere on the spectrum, they can also engage with it in a really different way, so it meets them where they are. I think the thing that we've got to be cognizant of is that we're augmenting, not abdicating. I think that's the big thing. Our education system is overstretched. Our children are put in classrooms where now there's one teacher to 30, 35. They're not getting maybe the experience that as a parent we would like them to get. So I'm just wondering where AI may be able to support that so that those students and the teachers get the best experience. What you were talking about was the skill of critical reasoning, which actually we're not teaching anyway very well in our educational system. And I think that's really what we've got to lean into. Our foundation of learning is basically memorization, which we no longer need to do. So it's how do we adapt in the right way? Basically, what we want people to do is be curious and be lifelong learners, and that starts when they're tiny. It's not so much about the blackboard and the chalk, it's about them embracing and loving learning and being taught to be curious. with AI lifting the load of the tasks, my hypothesis is that we could actually become more connected and more relational because we have to rely on our communication skills.
My greatest fear, I guess, is that we automate education and then it's exactly the opposite of what you're talking about. No communication, everyone looking at individual screens, looking at their virtual teacher, following their individual stuff. No in-classroom interaction, no human contact, no human guidance. And that would be like a dystopian, future for education.
Everyone had one or two teachers, right, that they really loved, who really inspired them to say, you can make something of yourself. If you really try, you can build a career, you can do a lot of things, you can make a lot of contributions. But if we rely heavily on AI, is that still going to be the case anymore? What are we losing here?
I think you can automate, the delivery, especially in younger years, and those that have young children will know how important the interaction is and how quickly they get distracted if they're in front of a screen. I think it's not a substitute, no matter how sophisticated the virtual teacher has become. Now, I guess we all have played with that, right? I've created an avatar of myself and sounds the same. It moves fairly reasonably. I mean, I could just upload my
This is the real version. This isn't the avatars.
But there's a whole raft of basics that we still need to teach the old way, because you still need to learn math, right? Unless you know math, you can't, talk about machine learning. So basics, I'm afraid, I'd like to see more pen and paper and whiteboards and chalk. Mostly, I think it's a question of investment and upskilling of those that teach as well, right? I mean, they're just as new to it as everyone else, but it will not be, in my view, the case that we can automate or should automate everything.
If you've got a classroom of kids and you're sticking an iPad in front of them and telling them to go and interact with a workplace or a hospital or whatever it is, that's useful to some level. Is the alternative actually to have doctors or business people come into the classroom and come and speak to people? There's a lot of opportunity, but it's the same in business as it is in education. We can't just apply AI without a strategy. It shouldn't start off with a hammer and then start hitting screws. When we look at education and the use of AI, things are going to change in terms of the way that society structures around the core technology of the time. And I think that we're also at a danger of being pushed the technology from marketing and from the capability perspective. We need to be focused on particular areas and use cases rather than just trying to hit a load of screws with a hammer.